TEDx people asked me to talk about, I guess, my experiences in the film industry and things like chasing your dreams and stuff like that, I balked because I'm very wary about giving talks. Primarily because we as filmmakers have this amazing ability of getting on a stage and just rambling on and on. On a set, it's a paid crew, so they have no choice but to listen. Here it's a different story. But when talking to the organizers, they said it was 15 minutes. So I thought it would be fine. I made some notes. Unfortunately, there's no podium, so I was sitting here the last 5 or 10 minutes trying to rattle what I had to say. So forgive me if it's a little erratic, but I'm going to do my best. As far back as I can remember, I always wanted to tell stories. You know, summer holidays were spent with all the neighborhood kids, and I would just cook up a story. Sometimes it was something I'd just seen, something I'd just read, and just sort of put it all together, fabricate it, and, churn out one. So it's funny that for someone who always wanted to tell stories, I took such a massive detour. 12 years, actually. 4 years of BTech chemical engineering, 2 years in a master's, 6 years in a job. But eventually, I found the courage to do what I always thought I was meant to do and sort of veered away from my job. This was back in the US towards the end of '96. And then I came down here and made Hyderabad Blues. I've always believed that, films primarily need to entertain. If some message creeps in, it's okay. But I think it's just got to be a story that you sort of, that the filmmaker takes you into a dark space, hopefully minus goddamn cell phones, and for 2 or how many ever hours he or she decides, takes you on this nice little journey. That's something I always wanted to do. So Hyderabad Blues was done. And I was sitting, it probably was my first interview. This was with a journalist, I think in Bombay. And she said, describe your film. And I started, and for those of y'all who've seen Hyderabad Blues, back in '97, if I told someone that I wanted to make a film at that time I had $40,000, so I wanted to make a film in $40,000, no name actors, about 82 minutes long. Of course, the length was dictated by the amount of money I had. Shoddily shot in 17 days, badly dubbed, and the clincher, no songs. I think it was absolutely professional harakiri. But sometimes in your naivete, without exactly knowing what you're doing, you step out and you do stuff. And then it works, of course. You have all these intelligent reasons why you did it, how you believed in yourself and, just stuck to your purpose. But the one thing, if I can take credit for, was just this madness to make a film. What that was going to be, what happened, I really didn't know. So sitting across the journalist and trying to describe to her what this movie was about, I said it's a movie about home. And she was like, I'm sorry. So then I said it's an indie film. And back in '97, the concept of all these wonderful monikers, the multiplex film, I think loosely we had art and commercial cinema. It still unfortunately exists, but so on the spur of the moment, completely by accident, I said, my film lies somewhere in the unexplored zone between art and commercial cinema. And at that moment, I thought it sounded really intelligent to me. So I had the journalist, write it down, and since then I've been using this quite a bit. But I think over the years, when I actually think about this unexplored zone, in my own naive way, I truly believe I fall somewhere there. It's something that really frustrates my producers and distributors. Because every time I go with a script and we sit down to talk about it, the way for people who are not in the film industry, the way it typically works is there's a very straightforward pitch. You say, it's a romantic comedy starring Akshay Kumar. Everyone's happy, everyone hugs, checks are signed, everyone goes home. But if you're trying to describe a film, okay, the second film, the first one I made with my own cash, so I'm trying to raise money for Rockford. So if you're there and you're saying, it's a film about a 12, 13-year-old boy, and a coming-of-age tale in the West is very easily understood. So I tried that initially. It didn't work. So then you're trying to describe it, it's his experiences in a boarding school, and most of them are going, and you want me to put money in this? So it's something that I've consistently sort of enjoyed, this unexplored zone. When I make my films, and if I were to define the zone, I'd probably try and, to simplify things, I'd probably break it down into 3 categories: genre, language, and a visual aesthetic, if you will. I'm going to try and draw on examples from my own films, primarily because it's the easiest to remember. Okay, genre. Like I was just saying, most of the times, even when the press tries to write about the films I make, sometimes I myself am confused. It's very hard to slot it in a genre. And I try very hard not to repeat myself, at least for the immediate film. So for example, after Hyderabad Blues, when I had everyone throwing in money to make Hyderabad Blues 2, 3, 4, which I eventually did, at least 2, I chose to make a film about a boy in a boarding school. When that kind of worked, it was a satire about Bollywood with a white guy in the lead, but not a white guy spouting "Hum tumko janta hai man" or any bad dialogues like that, but a white guy talking his American English. Then came Teen Diware. In the world of cinema, when you are slotted in a genre, most filmmakers are happy to be in that space because, like a job, it ensures some level of consistency. The moment a filmmaker pitches, they go, oh, it's such and such a film. I mean, you guys do it too all the time. It's a David Dhawan film. It's a Mani Ratnam film. So I've tried very hard, and it's not for self-glorification as much as I enjoy the process of journalists primarily, of not being able to slot my film. So even if it's convoluted, I would like the audience to be challenged, walk in, then decide for themselves. The second, language. When I made Hyderabad Blues, again, English, Hindi, Telugu, that's the way most Hyderabadis speak, most middle-class educated Hyderabadis speak. I use that language. Now, the films, unlike any other art form, are a serious business, so everything is about money. So when it comes time to sell the film, the constant refrain becomes, what is the language? So the next time around, I said, okay, I'm going to try and simplify it. So Rockford went almost entirely English. Good. Things worked well. Followed it up with Bollywood calling English again. Then I came to Teen Diware, where the problem became, if I had a film in English and the film was set in an Indian prison, then how do you get all of the characters to speak English? Since I focus so heavily on language, I truly believe, it's funny here when we watch commercial cinema, and I'm not tagging anyone, they get a lot of primarily actresses, because they're all disposable. Sorry, I'm not trying to be rude or anything, but that's the way the industry operates. Hindi-speaking actresses who come and spout Telugu dialogues. And most of the times, the director on the set is saying, just move your lips. I'm not kidding. This is the way it works. Just move your lips and, flash those brilliant smiles, and at key moments turn away from the camera, and the rest they take care of in dubbing. They actually do that. I'm not making this up. And to me, it never made any sense that when you talk about a performance, how so little attention is paid to the language. And in my films, I try and focus very hard on justifying the way my characters speak. If I break the rules, for example, in Door, I went with a lot more of drama. That was the genre I was going for. So the space was dramatic and everything. The lines that I chose were a lot more dramatic. So in that context, yes, it's a village girl from rural Rajasthan, but she spouted some pretty heavy stuff. But I put the film in that space and let the audience sort of get accustomed to it, then I give them those lines. So I've always focused very hard on language. So when the first bunch of films happened in English, the repeated problem became that it was very restrictive. Restrictive in terms of audiences. Because then I was just pretty much stuck to the 6 metros, and the films never went into what we call the B and C centers, where fortunately or unfortunately, the bulk of the commercial cinema money comes from, which is where the distributors play their game. So after HB2, it probably had a little to do with the amazing success of HB2. For those who saw HB2, it didn't work actually. I decided to actually veer away and make my first Hindi language film, and which was Iqbal. And like I said, since language was a key issue, I was not going to have people in rural India speak English. So it was not about an outsider's look at that, but to get the actual flavor. So we used whatever we thought was the appropriate Hindi. The third, so we had genre, we had language, and the aesthetic. The first set of my films dealt predominantly with the urban milieu. So as a filmmaker, when I lens a film, I physically don't do it. I have a cinematographer who does that. I have to give him some kind of guideline. I've always tried to focus on another fancy term that I use to describe my films, real fiction. So the idea is, my stories are entirely fictional, but I try and set them in a space as real as possible in order for the audience to be able to identify with it easily. Characters speak the way normal human beings do. Yes, in extraordinary circumstances, we do get more dramatic, which we all do. So right up until HB2, my films had a very urban feel to them. But in India, again, the business side of films, we're constantly, we don't have different slots. Like I said, there's commerce, there's art. So when even a regular audience member goes to see a film, you just go directly saying, "Arey, commercial film hai yaar, chalo." Which means you've already wound yourself, you put yourself in that mental state where you're going to sit in a theater and be told a film in a certain style. Locations will be unreal. Even Sita sitting in the middle of Ashok one will have thick makeup with blue eyeshadow. Characters will speak completely with different educational levels. It doesn't matter. But you put yourself in that frame of mind. And for me, it was key that if I was addressing such an audience, then I had to find, again, the right space. Because with Hindi, the market had opened up big time. But I had to find the right space wherein I get them into a theater and I say, "Hey, listen, I don't have any fancy songs. It's going to be a simple tale. Again, no makeup. I shoot all my films without makeup, even right down to 8:10 if anyone bothered to watch it. So I make sure that it is as real as it gets. Then I let my story unfold. Luckily, I wouldn't be standing here otherwise. Iqbal worked. I remember I was telling when all of us, Subhash Ghai produced the film, and we were sitting there and talking, and I said, seriously, if this film doesn't work, then I don't know what does. Because then I should just go back to making 50 lakh or 1 crore films in English and just deal with my urban audience. But it worked, which absolutely goes to prove the point. This nonsense about audiences don't accept stuff is a huge cop-out. Because I think constantly filmmakers have had the easy way out, because literally the business is run by a very, very small group of people, and their likes and dislikes pretty much dictate what happens. So when I make films, these are the 3 things that I focus on. And let me tell you right off the bat that there is absolutely no guarantee that sticking to these 3 things, believing in what I want to say, and following through guarantees any kind of success. If anything that I've learned in these, it's now 12 years. Finally, this year, I managed to break even with the number of years I spent as a chemical engineer. Because I think even until a few years ago, people were saying, are you planning to go back to chemi? And there was a constant need to justify my position as a filmmaker. So there's absolutely no guarantee of success. But I think the thing that, obviously, I forgot to mention the couple of films where I completely followed these rules and it didn't work. Who's seen Bombay to Bangkok? You guys, I'm going to meet each one of y'all personally, shake your hands. You guys are the true fans. Now see what I was trying to do. We had Iqbal and Dor, right? So post Iqbal, a lot of people came up and they said, oh my God, my life's changed. I'm not belittling anyone. Iqbal was a scary experience for me because I made just another film. But it's the wonder of this medium that you have no idea how it's going to hit the audience. So Iqbal happened, people said, I've followed my dream, this is oh great. A lot of people in the industry were like, acha, so you've enjoyed your success, let's see how, what you're going to do post that. I still stuck to my guns about not following up on, or not repeating myself, at least immediately with the next film. So I chose to do a movie about 2 women, which was Dor. And it was funny, Iqbal was a massive hit. I had trouble finding money for Dor. Because the moment you said, it's a film about 2 women, boom, that's it. And the funny part is, women don't go to watch a film about women. This is the truth. Why do you think, quote-unquote, chick flicks work so well? Because they have a romantic hunk at the center. So anyways, in India, the concept of a woman film is predominantly fighting against injustice, wearing a cop uniform, giving long bhashans and stuff like that. So I was trying to tell people, no, it's a regular film. But the difference is, instead of 2 heroes, I have 2 heroines who are the heroes. Eventually found the money, and the film got made. Now what happened with Dor was scarier. While Iqbal seemed to tap a thing of, the underdog and follow your dream and, feel good stuff like that, Dor seemed to touch primarily the women on a slightly deeper note. Again, completely unintentional. I was just making another film. And like I said, the story for me is paramount. So I did that. Now after Dor, so I had women coming up and saying, I was just so moved. My sister wept. Everyone was happy. So what do you do post-Dor? Again, follow the mantra. Do something you haven't done before, da-da-da. Hence we come to Bombay to Bangkok. So I said, you know what, I'm sick of this mantle of serious filmmaker, tackles, interesting topics and off the beaten track, all that lovely stuff, which thankfully, guys, please don't ever change that. That is my bread and butter, so please keep doing that. But, so I wrote a completely wacky romantic comedy. And I thought I was doing something really different because for the first time, I had a Thai actress, and again, she didn't speak in any language. She didn't speak Hindi. So to make it easier for the audience. So I thought my scene writing was very clever, and how I would get the fact that two people can't speak the same language, this, that. And I had my first Bollywood number. I had a song that I shot, a lip sync song that I shot in the film called Same Same But Different, everything. Everything was there that I hadn't done before. I was excited. Literally, the only people laughing in the theater were the people who made the film or my close friends. And it was a shock. I mean, it was really a shock because it really shows you how little we filmmakers know about filmmaking as it comes to the perception part of it. We all have very strong ideas. We, sit in dark corners, smoke cigarettes, and conjure up some pretty interesting scenes, but we honestly don't know. So if we don't know, then I would rather be doing something that I truly believe in. And when people say, when you made Iqbal, did it take a lot more love, effort, crafting than it did a B2B? No. Bombay to Bangkok was the film that took me the most amount of effort to shoot. It's all irrelevant. When you pay $100 and you go into the theater, you're going to judge it within those 2 hours and it works or it doesn't. So if there are so many unknowns, then I would absolutely love to focus on the only known. And in this case, the only known is that unexplored zone. So I would like to focus on the things that I haven't done before, be it in terms of genre, be it in terms of language or a visual aesthetic. Focus very, very hard on that. Be convinced of the material I'm making. And then, of course, pray like hell. Because no matter how confident you are and you've made a film and everything, those 3 or 4 days leading up to the release, let me tell you, I swear. So, you just do that. I would recommend anyone who wants to do this, especially people who want to step into the filmmaking thing. Primarily, the engineers, somehow engineers seem to make the most drastic shift. I guess it should be a clue about how interesting the topic is. That it's great fun. I mean, I wouldn't be doing it for any other reason other than the fact that, I play in a certain space that no one else gets to. And unlike my engineering days, there is no right or wrong. It's completely nebulous. What I decide is right is right. So I thought it'll be nice if I just summed up this talk with 4 lines from a film that's just coming out, a film called Ye Hausla, which I shot about a year back. And the lines are, Ye din naya, naya safar, nayi hai raah, nayi dagar, naya kadam, nayi zameen, naya bharam, naya yaqeen. Thank you.
So I think you are probably responsible for almost this huge number of software guys getting into the movie business, right? But with so many people trying to explore the unexplored zone, do you still see there is a lot more potential in the unexplored zone for you to continue exploring?
Absolutely, because sometimes it's not always just about fresh ideas. It's about taking an old idea and just spinning it around. And every time someone says that everything that's got to be done has been done, you see someone come in like a breath of fresh air. So, no, as long as there are stories to tell and there are people to listen, Keep exploring.
Thank you so much.